So to introduce myself, I'm Vijay Jethani. I'm Cloud Solution Architect. So I take care of mainly DevOps. So both Azure DevOps as well as from the GitHub per se. However, that is not limited to that. If you are working on any automation related to the DevOps or any workflows, I think that also we can get through by this base of having Azure DevOps or any of the open source DevOps you're using through. Okay. So coming to what we have the agenda for this complete quarter, I think we just covered the first session, which was on DevOps concept in July, and we also have a recording for that. So I will share this PDF with you so that you can go and access that recording once you need that. Okay. So similarly for today's session, I think it is Azure DevOps repos and pipeline. So I'll be sharing the recording link once we are done with this. So this particular session will be more of a concepts and I will have your demo. So you don't need to try it out anything because we are having time constraints in today's session. However, when we come next week for hands-on lab, there it will not be any slides. I will walk you through each and every step of creating repositories, creating pipelines and getting that build or deployment done. So we can cover 3 to 4 of the labs in the limited time of 4 hours, because you also have to get up from the bare minimum basics to get you started. Okay, so that is what I can say you for this particular August. Then coming up in September, we have a similar thing, whatever we have done for Azure DevOps. We will have the Git repositories as well as hands-on labs. So this will be for September. So by this complete base of July to September, you are ready on both Azure DevOps as well as GitHub to get started with your any of the automation or DevOps related projects. Okay, so starting on with our agenda. Now, many of us have been working if we are developer, then obviously we are working in and out with the codes. Okay, so first of all, let's try to understand why we need source control at first place. So consider a simple legacy example, the way we used to keep our files and data. It has to be there on some file server where we were collaborating together. However, at any point of time, if you want to have a previous copy, either you will take the backup of that or restore that from the backup to make that available to you, right? Similarly, if I am a developer, I will keep it on my machine and make it available to others who are working with me. Okay, but challenge with these kind of source controls, which is like file server or something which is purely based on the file system and does not have any source control management, or I would say the file management system on top of that, are not that useful for the developers. So while I come through next slide, I think you will understand why. So we as a developers who are working on any code, we need to track each and everything, right from what exactly we change and who changed that what. So first thing is obviously our code base, right? So it keeps based on who is working on which particular module or code base. We need a lot of those copies, right, of that code. So that way that system itself will become very bulky. The file system will become bulky if we keep on managing code individually for each developer. So that is where we are coming to a central source control system, which allows developers to collaborate on code and track changes centrally. So that is the main purpose of having source control. Other important thing is how do we manage the history? That means irrespective of who is changing that code, I should be able to know that. So that we are doing with the help of commits. Every commit have a description to it that what we did or what file got changed. Okay, so there are concepts for merging. When you, I would say, suppose two of the developers actually do the same file change at the same point of time, then how do we resolve the merge? So for merging, I think we have a separate concept of branches. That means anything what we are doing, like say suppose if you want a parallel running something which is based on this base, like simple example is feature set 1, 2, 3. If that is having the same base, then in that case, if we are merging to the production, how we take care of that? So that is taken care with the help of branches. Branches are nothing but again the source control, but it is the way you have the organization. It is something like your kind of a sub organization within that, where you have your own feature related source code. So that is the simplest of example I can give you for. Other thing is, how do we protect, like today n number of developers are going to change the code around, and how do we make sure that the production code is not getting changed unless and until we want to do that, or unless until we have the review process on top of that. So that is only possible if we are able to provide some policies, some lockdown of that particular. So again, this lockdown is done on the branches. So for to give you how we are changing from a legacy to this world is, now we are organizing code in a central system which is trackable. We are having history of what changes are going into that, and finally we are controlling where we want to have that merge or final copy of that code. So this is how we are taking care of the code collaboration as well as going through workflows. So this is exactly what I talked to you here. It is more written because at the end of the day, the purpose of code is to collaborate and run some workflows. So that is where we are creating workflows. Similarly, versions, as I said, while we are all of us are changing the code quite often. So obviously we need to have versions of that. Obviously open source, and we want everyone to collaborate on that. So we want to make that available rather than keeping it logged in one particular location only for restricted users. So that obviously we can, if depending upon if you are going for public version or private version, we can take care of that. History of changes, again, it's the same thing, how we want to maintain the code base. At the end of the day, what we want to achieve out of is the automation. So that is the reason we have written here automate task. So if you see this particular pipe, this is nothing but a workflow. You need a base of source control. Then on top of that, you go for the build, you will run some test on it, and you deploy that in your development or test environment. Once you are successful with that, you go and deploy to the production. And at the end of that, we also have to complete like measurement of whether we are really going or there are any bugs or something being raised at the user or consumer, so that you can measure and validate here. That is, we are providing the feedback to the main source control or that pipeline. So what are the best practices while you are managing or you are maintaining this source control? So first thing is make small changes. That means file by file, you can say, module by module, you can say, but make sure whatever you are doing or committing, you commit it appropriately, have appropriate description. That is what is meant by this. Do not commit personal files, because there are possibilities you have created a copy of that for your understanding that this is something which you did, what failed, what succeeded. You can retain that in your personal mailbox or your own repositories. That is okay, but while you're committing production, make sure you clear those files or you don't commit those files. Okay, and update often and right after pushing is like while you do commit, make sure that is available in central source control, because if there is a crash on your machine or if you are not able to put your machine, then you will lose everything of that. Also, this will also bring up the merge conflicts, like you are, say you yourself are not sure whether on which particular code or that particular file you have worked on. In that case, it can lead to the conflicts. Okay, so make sure you are following these best practices. Okay, now verify code changing before to repository is something, everything, whatever you organize. Like I would give you a simple example rather than telling you. Keep something which is running, that is your day-to-day branch, and then keep something which is being the production, which will be reviewed. Whatever you are trying to commit, that will be reviewed and then only committed at the final production level code. So that is what we are saying here. Pushing means nothing but that code, whatever we are working on development, is available for now for production to be consumed. Okay, so pay close attention to commit messages, because as we are working in a collaborate, even though you understand each and every file, but for others to understand what you really did or review to happen, you need to be very specific on what commit messages or descriptions you are putting on that commit. Okay. And other thing, I think this is more towards how the dashboard is being built. If you work in an enterprise environment, we always create a work item or a work request with help of that. So everything you being given the task of, you can always have track of that with a source control, and then obviously with the work items you are able to make sure that this particular timelines you will be able to suit through and accordingly merge that to production. Okay, so it does not matter the background or preference if you follow these particular convention and workflows. That is all meant from source control. So I will just pause for a while so that you look through it before I run through next slide. So now if we have to classify the source control, like if you have seen Azure DevOps or TFVC system before, I think you are well aware of how that works. So that is nothing but the centralized source control. Now that purely depends upon what is our underlying storage system. If it is more bound towards our file system, then it will have a complete lockdown or source, or I can say access control at the file level. However, if you have seen the base file system like our blob storage, then you can only control the container or to a limited extent that particular blobs. We will not have a complete lock of those files for individual coders or developers. So that is the difference between a central and the distributed source control. So while we talk here the centralized source control, these are some example of TFVC, central version, subversion, and Perforce are the example of this. The strengths you can see here is that is ideal for the large code base. You can go till file level and provide the access control. Okay, and you can always monitoring of that user is available, and exclusive file locking. That means if, as I already said, that you can, as it is at the file level, you can really lock it down, or we can say the read only and read write concept the way we have in our file ecosystem. Okay, the disadvantage that brings us is you always have a central copy. Only the particular files on which the developer is working is or that belongs to the developer, he is only able to do read write. He does not have the complete copy of that source code. Okay, so always you need to have maintain the connection with that. And in offline, if you are going offline, then respective files I think need to be committed unless until they are not logged by. So this is something which we have been working since start. However, looking at the disadvantages of this, I think something which is going through is using Git, using distributed source control. Now the advantage you see here is, first of all, irrespective of wherever you are having the full repos. Even if you are working feature set, the code base is copy of here. That means we are not disturbing the existing running, and there is always a copy of what we are here. We are a developer is given complete liberty to work on that. Any particular files he think should be changed if we are bringing specific feature set or any specific module he's working towards. With this, I think we have now liberty to really don't worry about any backups or locking of that. We are purely able to go through the having the full copies of that. One which is kept on the server in form of the branches, or I would say the feature set. Other is something locally you can have that particular copy. As there is no centralized system, there is nothing called file locking here. So that is the advantage of using a distributed source control. So both Azure DevOps and the GitHub, once we go through that, I think you will see that they are both based on this Git based source control. Okay, and the way I have explained you that while you do the merges or commits while promoting your code, to the production, then obviously there has to have some way to review that. So that is where the pull request is here. Like obviously our project lead or project administrator can review that, and once he is satisfied with our work, then we can commit that to production. So this is the feature branch, and this is a running production branch, which we call as a master. And obviously the collaboration here is must. The community, as this is, I think you can consider this from an open source perspective, where the people outside your organization are also committing to that. So in that case, you need to have something which works without an access control or without that system of locking that down by the domain or any of the identities. Release cycle, I think we will come to this once we go through continuous integration and development part of it. But at this point of time, just understand why we are using Git compared to centralized source control. So I will pause here a couple of seconds for here centralized source control. Similarly is for Git base. So this is the equivalent of what I have shown you for centralized source control. If you see, they clearly mention of open source friendly and complete offline support, because you are having complete copy of that repository. The examples again, you can other common distributed source control apart from this, whatever we are talking here of Azure DevOps or GitHub, Mercurial, and Git is the base Git, and Bazaar is also one of them. So I think depending upon what as an enterprise you are using that, but the most commonly used are Azure DevOps and GitHub. And every developer clones a copy of repository. That means at any point of time, you have full history of projects, what have gone through. Again, this is just putting both of them together. Unless you're migrating from TVFC to Git, I think, and then you need to be going deeper into TFVC. Otherwise, I would say just concentrate on Git. Okay, so now, as you know, as I already from the source control perspective, Azure DevOps supports both. That means as we are already grown from that particular centralized version control system, that is the reason you see the Team Foundation version control is still there in our product base. So you can still host that and migrate towards the Git. And there are specific, while we do the deep dives of this, I think we will understand how we actually able to manage that particular file systems or migrate that particular file system to Git based file system. Okay, so now pipelines. Pipelines are nothing but the workflows in simple terms, if I have to put it together. What I want here is, as I need automation, that the way you write your scripts, I have to divide them in respective stages or respective jobs which I run through. Okay, so and if I have to tell you day-to-day life of a developer, he does a coding. That means he works on his code and commit and whatever we have been talking from a source control perspective. The other stage is for him to automate that, and he does that with help of workflow. And in that workflow, what he will do is he will actually build that code to produce some artifacts which are something reusable in some shape and format. It can be executables, it can be some JSON for files, or it can be jar files. If we talk about a plethora of services or coding artifacts, from this. Okay, so at the end of the day, our goal is to create a workflow. In that workflow, for that workflow, I would say you create a pipeline. In that pipeline, you build. Depending upon the source control, you will require a respective package managers through which understands your code, or I would say IDs which understands the code and build that artifacts from that. And you obviously run some kind of the test on top of that. It can be a unit test, integration test, and whatever test. At the end, you can also run the stress test or penetration test. So these kind of the first of all, build automation and continuous integration is more towards building your code and having the test. And this test automation is more from a workflow perspective. That means the test which you have defined here, now this will be running at the second stage once you are done with your build, to test this while you're trying to integrate your code or when you're trying to do the penetration of this. Okay, final thing comes your deployment. Now this is, consider this as a end system or the test development system, pre-prod system you can think of, where you want to actually see this complete pipeline execution goes from start to end to show you that yes, now this code is deployed and I have the artifacts available on that particular service. It can be a website, it can be an APIs, it can be your infra as a service, it can be your database, it can be anything. So what we are trying to say here is a workflow will depend upon the source control. From that we will pull our code and make sure we create an artifacts out of that and run some test depending upon what module, what features that you're working relevant to that, and finally deploy that to a system to see end result what the consumer or end user will see through. Okay, this is overall what the pipeline will do for us in DevOps. So same things which I have explained you in short, I think they have clearly mentioned step by step. So I will pause here, just go through this slide. So one thing this automation is driven by is we can commit or trigger this by just changing a particular file in that folder or that particular repository or particular branch. That control is in our hand. That means how do I know that this automation has to be triggered now? So that is where there's a concept of triggering that with the help of your system, which we call as a CI system. We just have to enable that any changes are done by a developer, which is in control of developer, he can run that dev test complete workflow without any manual thing. So he can test that first, run the any kind of unit test or the penetration testing in that as well, or if he is doing something outside of that particular module, then obviously he can keep that as a separate stage. Okay, so ideally what we are trying to say here is he will then check each and everything, and if something comes out of it, something is not running, he can raise an issues so that that can be worked upon by team. So that saves a lot of our time than doing everything or setting up these things manually each time. So what we are trying to achieve, as I said, source control, we want to keep our master branch or production branch clean, ensure bugs are caught and available in form of issues if there are any. Okay, so this help us to fix or make our, like if you have to fix any bug in production, obviously the cost of doing that, first of all you are bound by SLAs, then other thing is there is a client penalty as well if we don't do that. So that is the reason we want to bring or detect those bugs early than to do at the production. So CI is a system which helps us build and test this. I would say in simple terms, it's the workflow of build and test. These are some pillars you can think of, because at the end of the day, as I said, you are anyway dependent on source control. Everything comes in from there. You prepare an artifact. So it is a package management system depending upon which code base, which are architecture framework which you are using. So that depends upon that. Continuous integration, I already talked about. It's a workflow which help us tie these everything or automate these things together. Finally, this is providing us the build process so that we can run everything of build, right from getting the source, then building and compiling, packaging, running using these automated process. So again, benefits, I think code quality, because if you obviously are running through workflow, at times we can do some mistakes. We can forget a number of things from configuration per se, from identity per se, but if we are doing a workflow and it is tested once, I think that is kind of an artifacts for us which we can run or reiterate that. Okay, so we are basically reducing the technical debt. This is nothing but the term of keeping bugs to, I would say this is more towards bugs and how you keep your code clean. Okay, so that is how you measure this. Similarly, anything which you are really, if team is working, if it's a longer, or I would say there are a lot of steps involved in that, it is better to document it or keep in workflow so we don't have to do it again. Okay, obviously it increases the confidence in code base before we move to the production. And also developer knows that really this is going to work for a production or not. So we don't stop you, as I said, this is more towards the platforms you have to use. We don't stop you from any language or platform. We don't stop you if you are even consuming any other cloud. Okay, so we ideally today are like in case of our own cloud, I think you have a number of things which is kind of hosted by Microsoft. You just have to worry about your code. However, if you do on any other cloud apart from Microsoft, that is Google or AWS, then you have to consider this as a machines which you manage yourself. So we also give you that option. So choices in your hand how you actually want to run this DevOps pipelines. So as on day today, we are having integrations and there are a number of pipeline tasks available to you for third parties as well. So if you go to the Azure DevOps Marketplace, you will find all of them. Also, we whether you are, because at the end of the day today user is using the applications which can be Android, iOS, similarly on the machines or the desktop operating system or server operating system, they run on Windows, Linux and Mac. So that also you have options to choose from while you want to build your code. And we do have integration with GitHub because that is again the other source control similar to what we have in Azure DevOps as a repos. Okay. And last is open source projects, that obviously because if you have to have a open source projects, then it has to have the visibility of public. That means all other collaborators from outside your organization can collaborate with you. Now this is the table to give you just what we talked in previous slide, that irrespective of you are trying to integrate or coming from any other particular previous versions of repository type, so you can see this. I will just come in a while for classic and YAML. At this point of time, just understand that these are repositories, different types of repositories you have, and in Azure DevOps you can support in this way. Okay, so forget about YAML and classic at this point of time. Just see that this is supported from other cloud per se or other source control per se. So I will explain you why there is no here, no here in 3 places for YAML, and there is yes for all in classic. And you can clearly check these whatever repository or artifacts you want to check from the workflow perspective or task, you can check that is available in the marketplace. Or even while you build your pipeline, I think you will be able to drag them to this particular place. Now there are some key terms while you build your pipeline. I will just explain you in short. Agent is something, nothing kind of machine which you are trying to use. artifact is something you are trying to build some output of that in some format of file or code which is reusable by your other module or feature set, you can say. Build is the complete workflow, the way I said, that how you involve your package manager and that understands what your configurations you have and build some output from there. Now CI is having the way I have talked about build and test, that is all about the CI. Delivery is towards how you deliver to an end system, the way we did the deployment part and all those things. So that is the term meant for. Deployment target, again this is more targeted towards if you are running an agent on on-premise. So this is the term how you target that. Okay, so deployment target on respective machines. Now within this particular while you trying to create this particular pipelines, you will have a job, that means a single instance of that running through. Pipeline is nothing but the workflow. Release is, you can consider this as, say suppose you are having a production version 1.1, 1.2 and all those things. So that is how you categorize releases. That means at that particular given point of time, what is the state of your source code, what was the state of your complete workflow, and you are trying to accordingly release that version according to that. So you can have different pipelines with different release versions. Okay, so that is meant by that. Stage, again the way we talked about CI, the build, test, and then finally deploy, you can consider the stage for that. That means whatever task I want to have in build, I will classify them in this stage 1. If I want to have task for test, then I will classify them in that particular stage. Similarly, for the final deployment part, I will classify them in the deploy stage. So these are some terminologies. Task is nothing but a small unit of the particular work you are doing on that particular within that stage. Okay, trigger is, again as I specified, it can be continuous. That means from if anything changes on that file, it will just that is using the source control. Other one is using schedule. That means if I know that this maintenance is going to happen on so and so day, on Sunday, Saturday, on or once a month, once a week, or once a year, then I can accordingly set the schedule or trigger for that. So these are some key terms. I think while you go through the documentation, I think you will understand more practically on that. Okay, now agents, as I specified, something which we give you out of box is called Microsoft hosted agents. That means irrespective of what kind of machine you want, we have those available. You just have to build your code or you have to take care of your own code. Okay, and if you are running free version, obviously there will be some time limits, but if you have paid for those parallel pipelines or those jobs, I think you are able to run that unlimited amount of time. Similarly is the case of self-hosted agents. However, here the time factor goes off. That means what we are saying, as this is self-hosted, the name suggests it is your own machine. That means you already invested on those machines. You are not trying to run any agents or taking any agents from Microsoft machines. I would say agents, you can simply think of this as a machines in a normal terminology, or VMs. So here you are using your own VMs. It can be Linux, Mac, or any machines you are running. Okay, as you are managing that, we don't restrict any time limits. So that is what we are saying here. Okay, how many of those you can run, again depends upon what kind of plan you have. So we don't have any complex planning on that. We do have something which is a team will use and something which enterprise as a whole will use. So there is nothing more towards on top of that. Okay, so I think I can share the link afterwards at the end of this session. However, at this point of time, just understand the concept of how you can have your, or where you can build your code. That is something available from Microsoft out of box, that is Microsoft hosted agents. Something which you have in your on-premise, that is self-hosted agents. So these are some of the available from your Microsoft. These are the versions available to you. Wherever you see VS, that means we already have Visual Studio 2019 available. That means you can run your code base on top of that. Similar is for 2017. If you're coming from an open source, we have Ubuntu as available to us. Similarly, if you are running on Mac, then this particular Mac OS versions are available to you. Okay, so make sure you utilize them depending upon the code or that particular framework you're using through. Okay, so that is the reason of providing this particular list, and this is running list. That means even though I'm showing you this particular thing, this keeps on changing and gets added while we have even the preview version. I think everyone know that we have brought now 2022, but even it will take some time for to be listed here. But still, just want to make sure that you keep on checking this regularly on our websites, that this particular versions keep on changing, or something will go out for decommission. Now, the important thing is which I have is something whether I should go for classic or a classic pipeline or the YAML pipeline. Now, difference between them is the way we have evolved. If you are not a hardcore developer and you want to automate your infrastructure as code, so I would say go with the classic pipeline. That means this is something kind of a drag and drop. You have the task created, you just provide us the relevant configuration information, that is a naming convention, what you want to use for that. I think and you're done with that. Just save it and run that pipeline, and the automation will pull out from the source. Everything is a kind of a UI based. Okay, in simple terms, if I have to say classic pipeline is a UI based. You do the drag and drop and you run this particular workflow right from getting the code. Okay, everything, building task, creating an artifact, releasing that, or deployment, everything is done in a fashion you don't have to write a code for that. Okay, so that is where the classic pipeline fits in. Now, why do we have YAML then? Because everyone wants to have the drag and drop. Most of the people, and that is so easy also because you don't have to mess up with the code and all those things. However, there are a lot of open source projects which are brought up, and also depending upon how you are contributed. So YAML pipelines does not distinguish between whether you are trying to build a test or deployment. Everything is a YAML file. So what I'm trying to say here is I will explain you while I do the demo, and I will also show you the side-by-side comparison how both of them looks like. Okay, so just bear me for that particular time until I come to the demo, but understand that this is more a code-based approach. Previous one is more towards a UI-based approach. Both are doing the same kind of workflow automation. If you see, the steps in this are exactly the same. Only difference is of whether you are getting the designer, that means a UI, where you will pull that particular task. Here you have to write everything as a code. Okay, so that is how the difference is. Otherwise, backend, the work they are doing is exactly the same. The dependencies, your source control management, your package manager, everything will remain same. There is nothing being provided out of box. Both are doing the same thing. Only thing is whether you want to go the developer based approach, or if you don't have a developer expertise, go with the classic pipelines if you want to automate your infrastructure as code. Okay, now coming to the from the concept per se, I think this is the last part from the concepts before we move to the demo. If you are hosting this on your own on-premise, then only thing what you require from you is opening the port 443 on respective, I would say the URLs which we do from an identity per se, or what we do from the management per se. That only you have to do. You don't need to have anything apart from port 443, and that is also limited to what kind of work you will do. So there is an complete documentation of how you will do that if you are purely an on-premise enterprise customer who wants to do this on their on-premise. That means agent where you want to build the code. You don't want the code to come to the any public repository or any particular Git source control or any source control system. Okay, so make sure you just have port 443 from your firewall so that you can connect to the pipelines here. I would say this is complete DevOps ecosystem. So you will have identity, so you will have all the authentication taking place using this port 443 and some URLs. That's all you need. This is more towards how you are targeting towards from the pipeline per se, that we in a Microsoft world, when you are here, we don't have any line of sight for you, whatever is running internal to your on-premise, because we don't know really, and that is being protected by firewall. So that is what we are saying here. We don't have any sight for you to connect your on-premise. And the only thing we need help from you is port 443 on respective URLs. Once you do that, I think in that case we will be able to target all whatever you have in on-premise world to be available for DevOps build and test or even deployment per se. The other thing to keep in mind is if you are running Microsoft hosted agent, everything is created and destroyed as per the Microsoft policies. That means you don't have any control. You won't be able to install any specific third-party agents. It is purely in control of Microsoft. However, here, if you need any legacy systems or something to do on your legacy old versions, then you can do here. Obviously, we don't stop you because it's purely your system. Only thing is while you come here and try to create a pipeline, make sure you have a running version of this without workflows. And also understand DevOps is not it will not know automatically from a legacy world. It's purely your imagination of the way you have worked in the past from a legacy scripting or anything you have automated on your own. Remember those steps and try to replicate here. It will follow exactly the same thing. So what I'm trying to say in short is first test that system thoroughly without Azure DevOps. Then come to Azure DevOps saying that, OK, this is now I know this for sure this is going to work. And now I want to automate this and retain this as a reusable pipeline from an Azure DevOps per se. However, if you're completely new to that, I think better option is go for the Microsoft hosted agents where you need not bother about machines. Just worry about your code and try to build from scratch. Okay, so let me share my screen for demo. Your DevOps or Azure DevOps will look like you have dev.azure and this is the organization name. So I have kept the specifically two projects. One is on YAML, another is on Classic. So first let us review what the Classic pipeline looks like. Again, the last time in our concepts, I think I have explained you what these is about in short, about what each of them does. So for time being, just concentrate on today as we have Azure repos and pipeline. So let's first of all review the code where we have. So this is something any files, folders, the way you have organized that. And this above what you are seeing here is the branches. OK, so these are different branches to collaborate across your team. OK, so the code base, whatever you're trying to build is available in source, and this is the website you're trying to build. Similarly, if you are running on a specific test and all those things, that is also available. So if you see, if I at the left hand side, I also have the test, respective test I'm running, any scripts I'm running. So all of them are stored as an artifact in your source control system. OK, so this is what you have from a source control system, and branches is what which controls from where actually it pulls down to the pipeline. OK, so just want to show you the pipeline as well. So as I said, in a classic world, there are two pipelines you have to take care of. Like one is the pipelines which comes under this. OK, so that this is the one pipeline. If you want to come towards the release part of it, so just want to show you the release part as well. If you want to come for release part of it, this is towards the release part of it. OK, so the reason this is towards release is because this is very much specific towards, or it follows whatever is being built through. OK, while we do through the build part, like the way I'm showing you here. So in Classic, you will see the two different types of the versions, I can say, of the workflows type. You can say one is under pipeline, which gives you the pipeline which is towards the build and test. Another is towards the release. That means at that particular instance, what is the release towards what particular version and all those things. OK, so this is how the Classic will look like. So first in Classic pipeline, if I try to edit it, you will see all the task in the form of a drag and drop. OK, so if you want to add any, you just have to click here and just search for that task, and you will get that particular task. Just click on add, it will just come here. Similarly, if you want to do if you want to pull this up, you can do the drag and drop. So this is purely the from the like your UI per se, you have that option. So you are not coding anything here. Now let's look into each of these particular tasks. OK, first of all, as this is a built in UI, So we provide you how you or which particular package manager you're using, which particular solution to build from. It will just find the solution file and try to build from that. And exactly the if you have really worked on your own CLI or any particular client system, it will have some kind of that link here how you'll do that. Okay, the commands line, this task will take care of that and make that or download that command line or make that available in our agents once you do that. Similar is, so first we want to make sure that we have at this point of time, just forget about what the code we have. This is towards the .NET, but just understand the flow of the pipeline. Okay, so we are building the solution depending upon the solution file we are trying to pull from, and these are the tasks. That means this is a workflow which consists of the task. First we will restore based on our package manager, build on top of that, and using the specific version. As I said, this keeps on changing depending upon how we want to. If you keep latest, then at that point of time, if we have 2022 coming in, even that will, or 21 coming in, we will have that. Okay, so 22 preview, the way we are trying to have it, I think it will be taking along a couple of years. I would say at least 1 years plus to come here. But meanwhile, I think you can use 2019 as well. Similar is the test assemblies. Now this, whatever you are seeing here, it is nothing but being pulled from that respective configuration while you build that and while you pull that. Okay, so this is the test assembly from the build configuration, and this is what the test will run. Okay, so you can use the wildcard. That means irrespective of whatever that, you just go to the test. I think from the repository per se, you can go and search here while you do this particular kind of lab. I think you will understand more there. Okay, so at this point of time, don't go into the specifics of how we're trying to build that, but just to give you the task, this is how we create our workflow. Okay, so this is some configuration example. Similarly, if you have something, if you know, like something advanced you want to do that, or specific test cases you want, so you have a number of options to do that. Okay, from the testing perspective. Similarly, even if you are running a simple copy, or if you want to make that available to the pipelines, make sure you are running a respective task. And as I said, the easiest part is in classic pipeline is just click this on the agent and you search through. You can search for Docker also. Similarly, this search is you just say, if suppose I want to put for just test, these kind of tests I have available. Similarly, say suppose I want to do something on app service or something of that. Okay, so if that is available, it will give me that particular. I want to do something on Service Fabric also, it will. If you want to run some scripting, so that also it will give you what kind of scripting. So it is purely based upon what kind of code base or what kind of workflow you want to create on top of this. Okay, now just want to show you some how do you run in this. I have not kept any trigger, but I think ideally you can keep trigger once you run this complete pipeline. In this particular, I will just click on run pipeline so that you can visualize how it goes through that agent. And see, first this is called job. That means everything we run from the stages, everything is given a job to run on, and this is taken by Microsoft. Okay, the pool, I have taken the image, depending upon whatever I have selected. If you have seen Visual 207, so this will keep on acquiring that and provide me the information step by step, the way my code is getting built on top of this. At times it like once it starts, I think it first of all tries to get the dependencies of that or NuGet package manager or whatever things it requires based on first of all it checks for source control. Then it goes to that particular package manager and see whether I have that is available. Most of the time it will be available, but if not, I think it will try to pull that from the respective source controls. Okay, so that is our part. If you are running anything and you have dependencies on something, that is our part on Microsoft hosted to make you that available at runtime. So this is as of now with the help of NuGet package. Once it is doing some security analysis on top of, which is by default. Okay, so whatever packages are being available from NuGet, we do that on top of that. And if you see exactly the same command line we are trying to use, and we are providing a specific paths for solution, and then moving towards the, I think it will be very small for you. Let me check if I can. Okay, so now it is running some test. Okay, so this is purely in your hand. The workflow, this is just an example, purely in your hand how you want to run this, whether it is a source code, what kind of source code you want to bring in, just make sure that is available in your source control repository, and then you tie this in a form of a some kind of workflow. Okay, so this is trying to build some code on top of that, and then once it comes here, and green check mark shows that it got successful. If comes with some cross or red mark, that means something failed. Either it was not able to find that particular dependencies, or something missing in the configuration what you have provided. Okay, so this is how this particular pipelines runs overall for the classic per se. Okay, so ideally the run part is not different for YAML and the classic, they are look alike. However, the difference is the way I've shown you the UI part of it, the way you configure that, the difference towards that. Now let me show you the other part of it, which was YAML, so that you can correlate both of them together. Now YAML also same thing, but there, if you see in this particular everything right from, and I've kept it purposely here, only the deploy part here. The reason is so that you can visualize this, that everything is getting done here from that per se. So here again same thing, but just see you don't have any UI as such. Everything is looking from the code per se. Now in this case also, if you are on Azure DevOps, you still have UI to a limited extent. I will show you where. If you come to the settings, let me check if I can increase this to some. So if you click on settings, it will look like hyperlink. Just click on that hyperlink. At right, you will see the same UI. The only difference is everything here is represented in form of YAML or code format. So exactly what command I want to run through, let me bring it back, otherwise it will not show the commands. Okay, so it is giving me what kind of commands I want to run on this NuGet package manager. Again, this is exactly the same. The only thing is I'm running this through a command line now rather than running through a task. Okay, so if you remember the previous classic, we did some build part of it, right? So this is build, also including the image which we are pulling from. Then I want some NuGet package manager or tool to get build of my solution. So that is where I'm bringing here. Again, giving them specifics about from where to get and what package to be built on. I want to give that. Similarly, that some test I want to run and create artifacts out of that, and that should be available in specs. Exactly the same thing. The only difference I did it here is I just added one more stage, which is for deploy, just to show you that now it is not different anymore, that I don't want to have a release separately. I can have at this point of time, or I can create a new YAML pipeline, because for code does not understand as respective ways to go through. Still I can go and do the release part of it in a separate YAML. It's purely in my hand. But this does not stop you from whether you want to have release or build in single. Purely depends upon how you want to manage this as a code. And coming back, if you are completely new, let me run this as well. I think let me run this, and by the time I think it completes, I think you will be able to make out. I can show you the classic pipeline, how you can convert that to YAML pipeline. So let me run this on master as well. And so now I have two stages. Previously, I just had one stage there because I just wanted to have the build part of it, not the deploy part of it. So the look and feel, if you see, exactly the same. There is no difference towards that. So meanwhile it builds, I think let me move down back to classic to show you how you can visualize your or convert this to a YAML. Now there are two ways. One is you come here okay, and see complete YAML out of it. That means complete whatever I have from the task. Just copy this, do minor changes and reuse this as it is. Just copy from here. Or other ways, if I just want this particular task, then only look for this particular task. That's it. Okay, just this particular task because I only need this. So depending upon your expertise, slowly I think you will move from the classic world to a YAML world if you are very good on coding. Otherwise, stick to basic of how you have trying being pulling the. Otherwise, look and feel, as I said, this is more towards UI, that is to a code, that is the only thing. Coming back to our, if you see the YAML pipeline, as the pipeline is being run now, the backend looks exactly the same. There is no difference as such how the agent is running and how the visuals you are seeing. Exactly the same look and feel, security analysis, getting the tool installed, building, testing, and creating the artifacts out of it. Only one stage I kept it purposely deploy here, not there, is to show you that I'm doing on the same part, not from separate deployment. So let it finish. I think with this, I think I will just come back to the slides to show you something which I have for you to try it at your home from the Git per se. That is the basic Git repository, which you can try it on your own, because that will give you the background of how that tool is working at the back end. Because these Azure DevOps, GitHub, they are built on top of the source control available from Git as a base. Then we created these particular UIs or APIs from which you are consuming these all functionalities. So it will take a couple of minutes. So meanwhile, also one more thing, once we end this session after Q&A, I think you will get a survey from our organizing team. Make sure you fill that survey because they are putting efforts to organize this and get this on time, coordinating with you, also providing the recording links and the contents to you. So please make sure you fill that survey and provide your feedback there. So that is just a request from my side. So please do that. So that will be obviously they will be sending by end of this day today. So just go through that and you will be able to look into that. So now this is the deploy part, which is now running. Now with this, I'm just trying to deploy one website using this particular task. So I have kept, let me go directly to my portal to show you the website which I'm trying to deploy. So I have the website called Vijay YAML pipeline, which I'm trying to deploy. Okay, so the code will be deployed directly here with the help of the task, which I have kept in the deploy part. So I think the reason I'm showing you here is so that you can both at the end you can see this is exactly the same which I command line, and once it deploys the package also you will see that zip getting deployed. See this parts unlimited.zip is now available for us to consume. So it is getting deployed now on the website which is on Azure. So don't worry about how I did that, because once we come next week, I think we will do all these step by step. I will show you exactly how you create a source repository, how you create this pipeline step by step, so that once you are through with at least one or two use cases, I think then you will be on your own to get this deployed or create the workflow automation. So now we are just finished that. I think it gone and deployed on the website, which is nothing but YAML. So I think if I want to show you this, I can show you here as well. Just a minute before we go there. You see the naming convention, and this is what is my artifacts, which is available in drop, and it will select the zip. In our case, it's parts unlimited.zip, which got deployed on this website. Okay, so now so let me try to pull this out. If it is a first load or it is getting a warm up, I think it can take some time, but I think it should be ready in a couple of minutes. Okay, so we have our website ready. So this is, I think, here if you can, for you to try it out once we do the next part, I think I will explain you how to create a user and all those things so that you walk through this particular code base, completely understand how we are trying to do that. Okay, so that's all from, I think, functionality and the session perspective. I hope you got some base of it, how we are doing this in and out, what is a YAML pipeline, what is a classic pipeline, just to have look and feel.